Alright. Let me just make sure it is up on live stream, and then I will begin talking. Alright, so welcome to episode 0 of Table Talks. I am Fox, I am the founder of Dice Troop, and with me today I have someone who's very special to the majority of people in chat room apparently. It's his face for the first time. Are you ready? Are you ready to see a majestic unicorn?
I guess.
Alright, chat room, here he is. It's Corruption Points. How you doing, buddy?
Hi everyone, I'm Go. How are you?
Alright, so yeah, once again, this is our kind of our intro episode. We're not really going to be going super in depth with any news or anything like that. We're just gonna talk a bit about us today. So, Corruption Points, why don't you start off?
Okay. Sure. My name is Corruption Points on Tumblr. My actual name is Christian. You can refer to me as anything you'd like now that we're friends. I have been running that blog for about 3 years. This is my first video anything, so I'm a little bit nervous. And this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have you at Dice Troop now. I feel like we're in line. So you look nervous, man.
I am nervous. I'll get over it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll talk a bit about how we got into our pen paper. I was just explaining in chat room before we started the live stream, but basically, my story is I think it was like it was somewhere between like 12 and 14. It was my birthday. Dad took me to like a Borders Books or something, and I was supposed to get a book. But then I saw the starter box to Dungeons and Dragons. I wasn't sure if it was towards 3 or 3.5, but I'm like, I want that. And then they say kind of like Dungeons and Dragons is marijuana, as it's the gateway game to bigger, harder things. So yeah, what's your story? How did you first pick up the interest?
Oh gosh, I was living in a small suburb in New England, and I had some friends, and they were playing this incredibly strange game with dragons on the cover. And I played a lot of video games, a lot of RPGs, and they're like, "This is an RPG," and I was like, "That sounds amazing." So I started playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I played it once; it didn't go well.
Wait, how old were you when you started?
Was that?
How old were you when you started?
I was 7.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine doing that math. And then I played 3.5 about a year later when I realized. No, I'm sorry, a few years later when I realized that that game was much more interesting and less complicated, and played that for a very long time. And that's where I started.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to sometimes go back and think about those games you DM'd, with your friends, and you like based off like animes you saw and stuff like that. And you're like, haha, we are so creative, we are so much fun. You didn't even understand half the rules. You just kind of were like, well, this seems like fun, And then I've also been playing on and off and stuff like that. I'm also a big tabletop war gamer. If those are you who are just familiar with Dice Troop now. We do a lot of Warhammer 40,000 stuff, and I recently stepped down to it to kind of do shows like this, where it's a bit more of everything. So I'll be doing something on board games and card games. I really haven't decided how we're going to do that, if that's going to be a group effort or that's going to be doing something myself. So yeah, let's dive into this. So what have you been working on lately? What have you been playing?
Recently, I'm playing Dungeons & Dragons 4th Edition and the Dark Sun universe. I just recently killed my whole party, so we're going to have to reboot that and start over. That's going to be fun. I am also playing World of Darkness as a player. I'm not running it, which is really, really fun. We're playing it as ourselves and not in a generated setting. I'm literally me in that game, and my friends are literally my friends, and we have to figure out how to accomplish things with our normal problem-solving ability, which is really, really fun. Way more fun than I thought it would be. Then I'm also playing Exalted, but not. I think that's about to end. What are you up to, Fox?
What am I up to? I just recently, a friend of mine suggested Savage Worlds to me. I think my situation's a bit different from yours because I really don't have that hardcore niche group that can really, pick up 3.5 and understand it very well. And it's a very in-depth, very punishing game if you don't play correctly. So I'm kind of stepping down and having to pick a Savage World just for a bit more of a simple game. I was kind of explaining to him. One of my buddies who works for me on Dice Troop, who also conveniently lives like 20 minutes away from me. We're starting a Warhammer Fantasy campaign using Savage Worlds, and yeah, I basically handed him the laptop, and he was able to figure it out, even though he's never played a pen and paper game before. So that should be interesting. Hopefully, we'll be getting to that in the next couple of weeks or so. So and then also he's also big into 40k, so he's running Dark Heresy campaigns for us and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited to start rolling something other than a D6 again. Yeah. So what? I mean, this is our intro episode. I'm sure you got all these fangirls in your chat room. I've never even seen half these people before. So is there anything you want to say to them?
Yeah, thanks for coming. Really, I appreciate it. I did not think that anyone would come to this or enjoy it. And I say this a lot, but I'm routinely surprised that anyone finds what I write interesting. So thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, and to explain, Savage World is a system that it's very simplistic. It's mostly based on, kind of like, I guess, storytelling and kind of just keeping the story flowing. You use the actual dice instead of stats, so you don't actually have to refer to a number, roll it, and then add modifiers. Just if you need a 6, you roll, a d8 or whatever, and if you roll 6 or higher, it's good or it fails. You know what I mean? So it's also universal, so there's a lot of different modules and stuff like that. Savagepedia is something that's entirely dedicated to just adding stuff, so you can do, you can do Warhammer Fantasy, you could do something like Mass Effect, or Battlestar Galactica, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. You can kind of do whatever you want with it, really. But, you can do that with anything, but I think Savage Worlds is a bit more friendly and encouraging to doing something like that. Definitely. So yeah, let's talk about what we have planned for the show. I mean, what do you have in mind for first episode?
So for episodes that aren't our introductions, again, I've said this to you, Fox. I'll say it to the chat room here. I'd like to use this as a forum to talk about speaking at a table, talk about performing. I'm heavily a big proponent that GMing is 70% performance and 30% writing. A lot of it has to do with your energy and relaying that energy to the table and really corralling your players. So I'd like to bring in topics like that: how to improvise, how to deliver, what it feels like when you're scoring a really big laugh or running those milestones. I'd like to, and you've said this before, I'd like to talk about the new systems. This year is really, really great for tabletops. D&D Next should be out sometime this year. Shadowrun 5th edition is supposed to be launching this year. So we can talk about all the news of tabletops that are going on, as well as perhaps just taking questions from you guys and hearing about what you want to hear about and our ability to speak on it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get a lot of questions if you have something that could be a particular rant, and your hands are cramping up, and you're like, oh man, I think I'll just save this for table talks, and we'll just talk about it and stuff like that. Because it is easier to talk than write, in my opinion. Maybe not for you right now. You seem nervous.
I am nervous. Now, I've always been a writer, and I've never really been a speaker, so this is interesting for me. But no. If I find a question on the blog on Corruption Points that I think would be great to speak on rather than write about, I'm totally going to bring it here, and I hope whoever asked comes as well.
Yeah, I know some people have been asking about D&D Next if we're going to be doing anything on that. So that should be something we go in depth to. I haven't really had a chance to look in. I kind of looked at it, and I was just like, all right, I'll get to it out of my piles of stuff to do and stuff like that. We're playing a couple things on Dice Troop. I mean, we're thinking about doing like live streaming our board games that we do on Vassal and everything, and maybe you'd be interested in running some pen papers with some of us and stuff like that. I know Toxic would be on board, and I know Seb's in the chat room probably. Like, do it. Why was I not informed of this?
No, I've said before, I would be totally down to run a Dark Heresy game over this, and I think it would make some really great television, and I'll do the absolute best I can do to kill you.
Yeah. Oh, so you're one of those. I feel like I'm the only GM I met that actually doesn't kill his players off. I mean, Dragon, if you've watched Fox and the Dragon, he's ruthless, man. He's like, I've never had a character get past like career 3 or something like that.
No, I'm not that bad. I talk a lot of big talk. I'm not nearly as bad as I make myself out to be. But there will be times when you can very very easily die, and if you're most of the time, I'll ask a player like, hey, next session there's going to be a chance for your character to die. How do you feel about that? And they'll either say like no no no, or I guess that's okay, and they'll start thinking about the next character. I would never just kill someone outright unless they, one, did something unbelievably stupid and ignored all my warnings, or two, are prepared for it.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
Yeah, I also think it depends on the setting and stuff like that. Like like with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Third Edition, I mean, I kind of explained to you how much of a pain in the butt organizing just characters in itself were, and yeah, I was just like, I don't want to kill characters because that means we have to reorganize all the cards and all the stuff. So I'm just like, you guys can live forever. I don't care. I just don't want you rolling new characters unless everyone's rolling new characters at the same time. But man, if I were to run like Game of Thrones on Savage Worlds or something, I'd be like, yeah, prepare your character to die every session.
Yeah, it heavily depends on environment. Dark Sun, right, is a ruthless D&D module, and I've been preparing my players that they're going to die since session 1. So when they all just recently died, they were like, no, it's okay, we'll make new characters.
Yeah.
Dark Heresy the same way. Dark Heresy, the world does not want you to live; they want to kill you. So it's very much a representation of setting.
Yeah. So, man, I just totally forgot what I was gonna say. I'm just having poo brain right now. I wish like my eyes could expand and my tongue could stick out like the poo brain horse from Adventure Time. But God, what was I gonna say? Oh, so with the campaign where your party got wiped.
Yeah.
Are you actually restarting it from book 1, or like from page 1, or are you going to just have like a new set of adventures pick up where they left off?
Would you like me to tell this story? I can tell this story.
Yeah, tell the story. This is story time.
Let's do it. Ready? So, I have a player who's playing a chaotic evil Eladrin Ranger in Dark Sun. And for those that don't know, Eladrin don't really exist. There's only a couple left in the world. And the fact that she's a ranger, and the fact that she's an assassin, and the fact that she's chaotic evil all sort of plays into that, right? I had a second player who was a tiefling. Again, tieflings don't really exist in Dark Sun, but there's very few of them. Who was convinced that he's a dwarf who was cursed to look like a tiefling. And the third was a half-giant, just a regular half-giant berserker. So the chaotic evil ranger, the entire since session 1 has been saying, "You guys, I'm going to kill you. You're completely worthless to me. There's no reason for me to be here. I'm going to kill you." And they're like, "No, no, no, it's fine," because they're kind of dumb. And they make it to their first dungeon, more or less, just this past session. And the berserker runs out, and he tries to. They're in the iron mines of Tyr, which is a local nearby mine. And one of the giants like, "I want to chip away some of these rocks with this pickaxe. I think it'd be a good idea." So I said, "Great, okay, go ahead, roll for it." And he rolls his pickaxe to hit the rock face, completely fails, rolls a 1. So I made it so he slipped off the rock face and stuck the pickaxe directly into his leg. Right? So he's like, "Oh no!" But like they healed him up, and they gave like the tiefling dwarf is a warlord, so he's got some healing ability, and so they patch him up. And I'm like, "Okay, but for the rest of the session, you're slowed, and that's just the way it is." And he's like, "Okay, I understand that. That's fine." So they made it to the next area, which is their first fight. And I said, you can roll perception to see if you can find these more or less giant cockroaches burrowing underneath the ground. Barbarian rolls another 1, completely fails his perception. And so he's like, I say, not only do you miss the fact that it's creeping up behind you right now, you go out of your way to detriment the team by saying, no, no, it's fine, and throwing off their perception. So he misses it. The cockroach jumps out of the ground and jumps onto his back, puts him directly into the middle of the room, which is also difficult terrain. He is now slowed and in difficult terrain, so his movement is like 1 as Barbarian. And he's grappling this giant cockroach that's stuck to him. He's like wrestling with this cockroach, and he's trying to make like the opposed strength rolls and all this stuff, and he fails with the same d20 6 times in a row. He just cannot get this cockroach off of him. He's completely worthless to the team. The dwarf tiefling is a warlord, so he's not really doing a lot of damage. He's mostly like utility support, and the ranger again is just like striking down, like shooting eyeballs. She's critting everywhere. Her dice are amazing. She's the only effective player of the team. So this moves on, and they're taking hits. They're going down. They're taking a lot of damage. The barbarian eventually falls. Right. So out of the corners of the room, there's some Corruption Corp zombies, and they're more or less just ranged attack zombies. They shoot globs of zombie goop at players. So they goop the barbarian. He goes down. So he's now incapacitated. He's making his death saving throws, and there's a zombie right next to him. So I'm like, dude, you're gonna get coup de grace by that zombie, and it's gonna eat your brains unless something happens. A session ago, so the session before this, I made a deal with the Ranger as a Chaotic Evil NPC, where if she was the only one to come back, he would give her a lot more money than he would normally give her. He more or less said, "Hey, you're going to go into those mines, complete this job, but make sure you're the only one that comes back from it." So the barbarian's down on his face. The dwarf Tiefling is trying to rally the fight. He uses Commander's Strike, which allows another player to make an attack. And he gives it to the Ranger, and is like, "You can do it, you can save us, you're the only one that can do this. All you have to do is shoot that last zombie and we'll be fine." And she's like, "Yeah, I think I can do that." And she rolls her d20, and she scores a crit. And she's like, "I'm going to shoot the Tiefling." And pins him to the wall with one of her arrows, right? Just completely dead, right? So then she takes out another arrow, she puts it in her bow, and she's like, "I don't need to do this." Leaves the barbarian's corpse for the zombies, leaves the tiefling stuck to a wall with the zombies, turns around, because cool dice don't look like explosions, and walks out, goes and collects her money. So the rest of the players, you'd think they'd be like, "Oh no, we got betrayed," but they're super duper into it. They're like, "Yeah, this is amazing. We're all gonna roll chaotic evil characters now, and we're gonna be like people that you knew, so you won't kill us next time." So the reboot to end the story is that the assassin called in some of her friends now that she killed off all of her party to accomplish whatever she needs to accomplish to complete these jobs, which is the coolest way to end a session. This is like the top 5 sessions. This is very close to being number 1. I think it might be number 1. I still haven't decided.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was amazing, and that's why we're more or less starting over with Dark Sun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, are you gonna somehow like link the events maybe?
Yeah. No, when they all died, right? I had they met a shopkeeper like 2 sessions ago to get supplies to wander through the desert, and he was telling them stories about these mines, like, "Oh, you want to watch out for the mines. There's all these things in it. They're saying there's zombies down there and all this stuff." And so I had it so that their new characters, they haven't created them yet, but their new characters were talking to the same shopkeeper, and he's like, "Oh, I just heard a story where these adventurers went down there, never came back. There was this like awful, beautiful assassin, but nobody knows her name or face, and she took out her whole party. Really want to go there. We're gonna rename it the Mines of Betrayal."
Yes.
And they're like, "Oh wow!" It was really great. It was really, really awesome.
Yeah.
The whole thing was absolutely excellent.
Yeah. It's one of those those good feelings, those mind-blowing feelings, when your players are really, really enjoying it. That actually reminds me of one of my better stories. When I was in college, I had a few friends, and that's when we were playing a 3rd edition of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and we were running our own campaign, and basically, it was at the point, I think we literally were up for 24 hours. We played a pretty long session. It was 6 or 7 hours or something like that. It was basically them. Their characters are getting tainted by the corruption of chaos and stuff like that, and how far they would go to get the job done and stuff like that. And after 7 or 8 hours, I was like, "Okay, that's all I have written." They're like, "Can you write more?" I'm like, "Right now?" They're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." So I ended up putting on a Lord of the Rings Extended Edition, and I ordered an extra large pizza from my pizza place, and I just sat there and wrote while they just watched Lord of the Rings. And we finished the entire campaign in about 26, 28 hours. Yeah, one of them ended up completely falling to chaos. Like he ended up becoming like a warlord. He was like a he was a wizard from the colleges or whatever, so he was able to get the superstitious Northmen to do that. He's like, I make things go boom, and they're like, oh. And then he was able to rally up a bunch of marauders and stuff like that, and then he just ended up. I don't think he ended up killing his friend. Maybe he did. I forget. It's been a few years and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be doing stories. What do you think? Should we do like a story session?
Yeah,
a story an episode.
I mean, let me put this out to the chat room, but I think we should do a story session. There's something about speaking stories that just don't come out when they're written, and that's exactly what tabletopping is.
Yeah, we can end the show with a story. We end the story time with corruption points and stuff like that. Man, I need like all sorts of arts. Like we need to get like the building blocks, but it says corruption points or something like that.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Story time. You have your own lullaby, and it's just the bard song, but it's just you going dumb in the background.
Me freaking out.
Yeah. So why don't you like bards? What's the story behind that?
So listen, right?
Listen,
right? If you're a bard, you're like. You're a rogue that can't fight, or you're a fighter that can't do cool stuff, or you're a wizard with lamer spells, and who needs bluff anyway? And suggestion and fascinate is a stupid combination, and I don't like their clothes, and why do you need instruments? And there's so many better things to play. Bards.
This just in. Corruption points gets mad. You mad,
no,
bro?
Because you don't need to be a bard. Like, well, when you look through the book, you're looking at the book of the, like Dungeons and Dragons player classes. You're like, oh, barbarian, that's amazing, right? Or like, ooh, druid or hunter or wizard and sorcerer. No, I don't want any of those. I want to be the guy with the fancy guitar. You're like, what? Who? What? Come on. What are you doing? Deep hatred for bards.
Now,
always will have a deep hatred.
Now, if we do this Skype pen and paper session, I'm gonna be a bard. We should all roll bards.
I'm actually, based on the whole experience, I'm actually like seriously considering writing a module of a D&D campaign that all the players are bards, all the enemies are bards, different kinds of bards.
Dude, that's like a Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Pen and paper.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I don't actually hate bards at all. Should I tell the actual story? Yes, we're friends now. You know my name. Yes. I'll tell you guys the actual story.
All right.
A while ago I talked about how I don't really like Vampire the Masquerade. Because I had a really bad experience with it, and I prefaced it all with like, I don't hate the system, I don't hate it at all. I think it's actually really cool, but it was not for me. And like for weeks and weeks and weeks, people were like, "Hey man, why do you hate Vampire the Masquerade?" And I was like, I don't hate Vampire the Masquerade. It just wasn't for me. I had a bad time with it. This went on. Like, so people were like, hey, correction points. Like, I know you hate Vampire. Don't worry, this isn't about that. I'm like, guys, I don't hate Vampire. So to more or less distract that from this, I decided that I would hate something that's much more easy to hate, and I picked bards because why not? And that became this very long, very entertaining running joke. But no, I have this side story fanfic about myself where I'm a bard and I'm killing like every other bard in the universe to free myself from the bardic curse. I don't actually hate bards. I actually I will always allow a player to play whatever they like. I like players having fun with what they want to do. And in the end, that's all that matters. If I had a player that was a bard, I would probably treat them slightly worse than everyone else, but not too much worse.
That's classist.
It is. I'll admit to it.
Highlander Bard Edition. There can only be one.
There can only be one bard.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we can start the show with a topic and stuff like that, and we can end the show with this story. We kind of don't really know what we're doing here. We don't really know. Yeah. We still don't know. Into episode 0, and we still don't know what we're actually going to plan for the show. So, yeah, we could do questions.
Episode 1, we'll figure it out, and hopefully this will be a lot more structured.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, we're almost at a half hour now. So you feeling good about this?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling pumped.
You feeling good? All right.
Yeah.
So just so you guys know, yeah, we're planning to do this Monday at 1 every week. Every week you can do every week, definitely.
Yeah.
If not Monday, we can reschedule it sometime later in the week. But Mondays at 1 p.m. And for those of you who also don't know, if you don't follow Dice Troop, which is what I run myself, I will post a link to it. And we also have a Facebook group as well. I'll post in chat now. So for those of you who don't follow, you can follow us now. I think this is the link to the Dice Troop Facebook. Bard of the Rings. Yeah, and you're also part of Blood Bowl as well.
Part of the Rings is the best thing ever.
You're also doing Blood Bowl with us still, right?
Yes. Yep. I'm still.
Yeah.
in the Blood Bowl
How's your
Crushing Corpses.
yeah? How's your team doing?
Okay. I think I'm 0-2-1, so I had 2 ties. I'm hoping this week we'll get my first victory.
Who are you playing? Who are you playing? Do you know?
I'm it's being Savage this week actually, so I gotta fight the Battle Brother.
Brothers at Arms. You should just talk about betrayal. What is it? The Cave of Betrayal now?
Game Betrayal. You know what? I will tell my story of why I don't really like Vampire, but I'm going to do it next week. You gotta come back to hear it.
Yeah. Or you should interpret it through the media of dance.
I make an interpretive dance about my. Maybe.
Maybe. just you in like the tight pants, the tight shirt.
That's how I normally dress. I don't.
Play a
That
song.
would be different. Yeah.
Play Vampiria by the Misfits, and you just interpret it through dance. All right. So also, for those of you who don't know, we also Dice Troop is also a non-profit organization. We do everything on donations. At the bottom of our Tumblr blog, we have a donate button. If you like what we do, you can donate to us. You can donate $1, $2, $5, anything that can help. We will always provide these shows for free. And yeah, that's our intro episode. Kind of a bunch of mishmash of stories and introductions. We will be a bit more structured when we come back next Monday.
We'll hope at the very least.
At the very least. So yeah, we'll be back because obviously chat room's active just to kind of hang out. So we will talk to you all later.